Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Manufacturing Talks. I'm Jim Vinosky, your host. We're sponsored by Cosgrove Content, wordsmiths for industry. So if you work in a technical field of any kind, you struggle to find people who can write about what you do, look up Cosgrove Content at cosgrovecontent.com. And I'm happy to be joined today by Neil Friedman. He's the co-founder and chief operating officer of BodiMetrics. Welcome, Neil.
Hi, Jim. Nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
Pleasure.
So we're going to talk specifically about one of your many forays into entrepreneurship, right?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
And
this is the one I'm most proud of, I must say.
Oh, really? Well, that's saying something because I know a little something about your background. And so this is the Prevention Circul Plus ring. And,
correct.
Before we dive into that, just wanted to do that as the intro. But first off, just wanted to hear about your background. What is it that got you to this point? What are the other things that you've worked on, and what is it that makes this one in particular
So special.
Your proudest accomplishment?
I sometimes, when people ask me about myself, I describe myself as a serial entrepreneur. And at the age of 21, I had the good fortune of traveling, working for a company, and went to Asia in the textile business. And since 1971, I've made over 150 trips to Asia.
Wow. And
my whole business life has really been primarily out of Asia. And if you would ask, me what are my strengths, one, of course, it's my relationships that I developed over the years in Asia, my ability to source products in Asia. I have this unique ability, which I'm blessed with, to make people feel comfortable when they're with me, so that we're able to develop a deep relationship and trust, if I can say it to you that way.
Yep.
And it's just been a great life. I've been very, very fortunate.
Wonderful. What are some of the other things you've worked on in the past?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I was in the textile business, and I worked for a company initially, then I had my own firm, and one time was probably in the 5 largest importers of sweaters into the United States.
Wow.
And from there, because Asia was my base, I started doing different things. And everything that I did, whether I was doing it in Asia or in the United States, was primarily sourced out of Asia. So I was in the toxic waste business, for example, where I actually took rice hull ash and absorbed toxic waste with it, and purchased the rice hull ash from Asia. I've been in the ice cream business. There was a very, very famous brand in America called TCBY yogurt.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure everybody remembers that, at least
Sure.
It's my age or your age. And it was called the country's best yogurt at that time. And it's an interesting story. I was in the textile business, and I saw it changing, as all the businesses in our country have, and the consolidations that were going on. And I was concerned about how I'd keep myself going, to be frank with you, in the textile business. So I had a terrific friend in Hong Kong who had achieved tremendous success. And he said to me, well, go find a business. And I actually wrote letters, bought a franchise magazine, and wrote letters to about 50 different franchises throughout the United States. And one of the responses I got back was from TCBY Yogurt. I called them. I told them that I was interested in talking about China, and they said they were focused on Korea. And I said, well, if you're focused on Korea, then you're not really understanding what's going on in Asia, because China is the pearl. And I ended up purchasing the licensing and manufacturing and franchise rights for Hong Kong and China, and ended up building the 2 largest ice cream factories in China, and did the first Western TV commercials in China, and additionally had the #1 TV show in Shanghai at the time,
Wow.
which
Neat.
was actually called the TCBY Game Show.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And I've done several other things. I was also in the weight management business, and the weight management business was I was importing all of the devices to monitor people, and that really led me into BodiMetrics, if I can say it to you that way, because it was the advent of the change from the hard wire to the Bluetooth.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and as that change occurred, my business changed. I segued, you might say, from the weight management business to actually importing Bluetooth devices in the consumer/medical world.
Got it.
And that ended up bringing me to BodiMetrics.
Okay.
And what ended up happening is that I had an opportunity to bring in a device, and it was actually this device here that started BodiMetrics. And this was a handheld device that monitored many metrics. And actually, it's this device that actually created the Circle Plus ring, because many of the metrics of this handheld device that we have here, we shrunk into today what is the Circle Plus ring.
Got it.
And I had the good fortune of getting this device, and the technology was extraordinary. And we didn't go into the consumer business. We actually wanted to be, you might say there's two different businesses in this field. There is we like to separate it, we call it the healthy and the health business, right? The healthy is the individual who buys a Fitbit, and I say Fitbit out of much respect because they really started the consumerization of healthcare.
Right.
And people that buy the Fitbits of the world or those type of devices want to buy devices where they get measurements, but their concern about accuracy is not really prime in their interest. They just want to get an overview of their health.
Yep.
And when we had the good fortune of getting into the business, we had devices that actually were able to drive medical metrics. And so that's where I go from healthy to health. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway,
well, go ahead.
Long and short of it is, I was telling you about our device, and so we really got into the healthcare business versus the consumer business.
Yeah.
And saw that differentiation. I've been trying to build that today.
Right.
And so that what we did was we recognized that if we wanted to be in the healthcare business, we had to work in the academia and the hospital world and the clinical world. And that's where we pointed our focus. It really wasn't towards selling to the consumer, if I could say that to you.
Right. Yep.
Right. And we had the good fortune after our first device that I showed you of picking up other devices because of our relationships and bringing them to the marketplace. And I was very, very fortunate to fall upon the Circle ring. And actually, the Circle Plus is actually a second generation of the Circle ring. The original ring looked like this, okay, which was basically, I like to call this a nut, actually, not a ring, because the form factor has remained the same in both generations. But as you can see, there's a little half halo here, and then there is two vertical drop downs. Okay, and then our sensors are on the bottom. And this is really the key thing in the understanding of our technology. Our form factor allows us to do many things. And I want to step back and tell you where I think a differentiation is occurring in the world today in what we'll call the wearable marketplace.
Right.
Okay, and the wearable marketplace, I believe, is poorly named. And it should be called the sensor marketplace, because all of these devices, all the information is driven from sensors.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And we have wearables on our wrist, as you know, like this.
Yep.
And today, I'm sure you've seen advertisements for rings and other devices that have now moved to the finger.
Right.
So in understanding the sensor marketplace and achieving good metrics versus that healthy versus health that I was describing to you, right? Stability of the sensor is the key. Okay, because if you have a watch per se that's moving, then that sensor is not stable. And if the sensor is not stable, it can't get you the metrics par to a medical metric. It can get you a metric that if you're again, not saying anything negative about, but if I just generalize and use the word Fitbit, a Fitbit user, then it gets you those metrics that, you know, that show you that you're okay, if I could say it to you, but not specific, you know, to really what's going on to you.
Right.
Our device, which is now I'm showing you the new Circle Plus, where you can see it's extended a little bit. The key to it is the form factor, and this is a patented form factor. And by having the ring extend itself like this, what ends up happening is that when you put it on your finger, it closes up and stabilizes the sensor.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is very, very important as far as getting medical metrics, but it also takes to something that is foremost in the news today. And one of the metrics that we're capturing on this device, and actually the key metric for the device, although we capture the Circle Plus today, captures, just to let you know, continuous blood oxygen, continuous heart rate, continuous finger temperature. There's an ECG and blood pressure device on the bottom of it. And you know, the key thing here is getting those metrics to be precise, as I told you. But
right,
the big thing that's exploding in the news now, which is terrible, is the pigmentation problem that exists in blood oximetry.
Yeah. I was just reading an article right before we got on about that.
Exactly. It's all over the news.
Yep.
And actually, for it to be in the news at such a high level as it is today during our elections, really speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Because unfortunately, on May 31st, I'll give you a little historical here. Johns Hopkins, in the Journal of American Medicine, released a report. They had over 7,000 people that they monitored with what they call fingertip oximeters. Those are the oximeters that pretty much everybody bought when COVID outbroke. You know, there was a charge at, you know, to the Walmarts and the CVSs of the world buying these devices, and they were just scooping them up left and right.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is those particular devices, as per the Johns Hopkins clinical trial of 7,000 people, misdiagnosed people of color, from Chinese to black.
Yeah.
Thousands of people died, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this problem has been known in the medical world for over 40 years. Right. And this is part of today's focus on what is health inequity and racism, to be frank with you. Okay. And the beauty of the Circle Plus ring is that our sensors lie on the belly of your palm versus the backhand where your pigmentation is. We use a unique way of measuring blood oxygen, and that is reflective technology, where typically the technology that's used on the fingertip oximeter is technology that goes through the finger. So by being on the bottom of the palm, we don't have a pigmentation problem. And part of what the Johns Hopkins trial said was not only were people misdiagnosed, but individuals today that are using these devices to monitor themselves for COPD, for asthma, for pulmonary fibrosis, are continuing to be misdiagnosed.
Right. Yeah. Getting bad info constantly.
Bad info. Right. And what ended up happening was, just to really tell you how this all exploded, was prior to the Hopkins journal, the University of Michigan wrote an article which was called forgive me, I'm forgetting the word, but it was basically stating that people were misdiagnosed for COVID. When that article was released in December of 2020, the next week, the New York Times wrote a major article about it, and CNN followed up with it. And then actually three senators in the United States, Biden, Booker, and Wyden, wrote a letter to the FDA saying that there's misdiagnosed COVID people based on pulse oximetry. Frankly, the FDA gave a terrible, terrible response. Okay, one
Yep.
that as an American, I'm embarrassed about.
Yeah, that's exactly what the article I was just reading
Right.
stated as well. Yep.
Right. To let you know, we actually went to the FDA in January of 2021 and applied for what is known as an EUA, which was the emergency use authorization,
Yep.
similar to what our vaccines got through and other devices.
Right. Yep.
Unfortunately, they did not pick up our attempt to try to get our device into the marketplace in time for people to be saved. Okay. So now it's exploded and it's all over the place. And what we have known for years and doctors have known for years is now in front of the American public. And I think the reason why it's getting so much press is that everybody realized the loss of life.
Mm-hmm.
And just that this is caused.
Right.
Hopefully in the future we can help, and we're making that attempt to help right now. We work very much within the African American community to get the message out. All right, and I'm fortunate I have some friends within that community, and we were able to contact the city of Pittsburgh. And in the city of Pittsburgh, one of the biggest African American churches, and actually the oldest African American church, which is the AME denomination,
Mm-hmm.
the Bethel AME Church, which is called Big Bethel in Pittsburgh, actually went out and got grants to take care of the underserved.
Oh, wow.
And what they're going to do is they are going to distribute our ring. And primarily who we're going to distribute the ring to initially is actually going to be pregnant African American women. And the reason for that is that there's an alarming increase in death and actually problems with the children of African American women. And so they're going to have the African American women wear the device. We're going to monitor them remotely. And that's part of what we do, which could be another part of our discussion, which is remote patient monitoring,
Right.
which is the future of healthcare, which is what Circul does, which gives the ability, for example, with these women to be at home, to have a conference with a doctor or a nurse to review the numbers and to create the awareness that's necessary for these individuals to hopefully change what's going on within the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And good.
I was going to say, so, I mean, we should say now, I wrote about this a year ago for Forbes, and so I've been familiar with it. And it's been interesting to see the functionality that you've added even in that short a period of time. So can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure. The original ring that I showed you had just blood oxygen and heart rate. And in any manufacturing, and I know this is your area of expertise, you always learn from what you have.
Right.
Okay. And that's what we did. Okay. So our original ring, frankly, would do those two functions, that I told you about.
Yeah, which are also important, obviously.
Right. Of course, those are and not only are they important because blood oxygen was the initial indicator of COVID.
Right.
But the bottom line is in the pulmonary area, there are so many comorbidities where we have to watch the oxygen. Okay. So for example, if somebody that had COPD was wearing our ring and their blood oxygen dropped down to 88%, which they could see on their app, then they would know it's time to take oxygen. As we kept on examining the ring, we found that we could make it better, as any good manufacturer would do. And what we did was, in the new ring, was that we moved the sensor of the blood oxygen out a little bit further. So initially, the ring was laying too close, you might say, to where the finger hit the palm, and we moved it out more to the belly of the finger. And that really has now given us extraordinarily accurate numbers. Additionally, from the new ring, we added temperature, finger temperature,
Yep.
and just jumping to another area before I tell you more about the ring. It's important to know that with post-COVID and long haulers, which is becoming such a huge area
Yep.
of people that need to be taken care of,
Yep.
they're the three metrics that are told to people, and it's actually from the largest website about post-COVID and long haulers, which is called ZOE, which is based out of the United Kingdom under King's College. And they recommend to everyone that is a post-COVID long hauler to monitor their blood oxygen, their heart rate, and their temperature. So we have that on the ring. So we're able to help those people, which is so fabulous.
Right.
We have an incredible doctor who is our chief scientific advisor. His name is Dr. Mayer Krieger.
Yeah.
And Dr. Krieger is out of Yale University and frankly is often called the father of sleep. Actually, any doctor who has gone to medical school for the last 35 years has read his book about pulmonary science and sleep. And Dr. Krieger has coined the Circul Plus as the post-COVID go-to device. And it's interesting, I must tell you, I really enjoy dealing and talking with our customers, right? And I try to actually answer that line very often to hear the input.
Mm-hmm.
And what the reality is, we really don't know how really to take care of the post-COVID and long haulers yet.
Right.
But what the ring provides to them is the knowledge of what those metrics are that they've been told to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that knowledge and you see those numbers, what does it do? It reduces your stress.
Right. Yeah.
And by bringing down your stress, it creates a much healthier environment for you on a daily basis rather than not knowing.
Right. Well, and you're able to create records of what they're seeing as well. So the medical researchers have some data to go on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we added onto the Circul Plus, as I mentioned, the temperature on there. And then additionally, we added on a 1-lead ECG and a blood pressure indicator.
Right.
And when I talk to customers today, many of them call up because I'd say about 60% of our customers have sleep problems. And when you're examining and concerned about sleep, blood oxygen is the key metric for sleep.
Right.
So when I'm interacting with people, I say, well, why did you buy our device? And as I said, a good portion of them bought it for sleep. I said, I want you to think of it in a different light now, right? Because we're living in different times. And the reality is that respiratory viruses are here for the rest of our life, okay? So that self-monitoring is also going to become part of our life. And so what I tell people to do with the Circul Plus ring is to take an overnight sleep test where they're getting their continuous blood oxygen, their continuous heart rate, their continuous temperature. And then I say, download the data in the morning. Excuse us on this conversation, but I tell them to go to the bathroom because we all go to the bathroom in the morning first thing.
Yes, we
and
do.
Then right? And then I tell them, go to your kitchen table, put your forearms or your elbows so you stabilize them. Don't cross your legs. And take an ECG and blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have all of those metrics, you really get a good overview of your health. And you're creating the baselines of your health. Yeah. And you see what they normally are on a daily basis. And that helps all of us.
Right. Well, and you referred earlier to telemedicine, and that's going to be another big factor going forward. It's, you don't necessarily have to go to the doctor for your checkup anymore, but then you have to have data like this to have a meaningful conversation as well, because they're not there able to take it in real time.
So let me tell you a great example of telemedicine and a great thing that we're doing, okay? We're fortunate, one of our customers is the Veterans Administration, okay? And we've been working there several years. And they just recently got a grant and they're going to distribute the Circul Plus ring to the spinal cord injured vets that live in remote areas. So just like you're saying, and by the way, the VA telehealth system is extraordinary. Okay, it's really a terrific system. So that what will happen is that for the first time, these vets who are so far away, I mean, there are vets that live 8 to 10 hours away from their hospital. They can't get into the hospital. Needless to say, they have spinal cord injury. So now we can really help these veterans, right? And identify, see their stats, identify a problem at home, and if we need to send somebody to them. And that's what telehealth and remote patient monitoring is all about.
Right.
It's really taking care of you in the home, right? Because 80 to 90% of our problems can be solved at the home, and we don't have to go to the hospital and burden the hospital.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's the future.
Yeah. Obviously, it's working on both ends. It's saving your time, but it's also saving those resources in the medical field that are in such demand.
Exactly. So we also are working with Kaiser. Okay. And we're working with Kaiser in the pulmonary and coronary. And they are going to distribute the ring to all pulmonary outpatients. But they're talking in the area of COPD, asthma, cystic fibrosis, pulmonary fibrosis, and what we call OSA, which is sleep problems. And again, they have recognized, and it's interesting, Kaiser's not looking for the reimbursement. They've recognized that financially, it's smarter for them to give the ring to their patients, because at the end of the day, they're going to provide better health care and save Kaiser money.
Yeah. So it's an investment.
It's a great investment. Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
I can tell you some other very interesting things if I can.
It's just fascinating to me because, it started with this very narrow focus. And as you've obviously talked about a great many applications. Certainly fill us in more on what you have immediate, but I definitely, before we wrap up, want to hit on what you see down the road as possibilities.
Sure. Well, interestingly enough, just one other application. We're going to be working with dialysis groups, because blood oxygen is a key measurement that the dialysis companies need to see. So if they have the ability to have their patients being monitored again and seeing those numbers overnight from the patients, it's only going to improve their care.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And in the future, talking about other developments that are coming on Circle, just to let you know, we're going to have in about 10 months a patch that you'll wear on your chest that will provide you continuous blood oxygen and continuous ECGs for 3 days. So again, that wealth of data to a doctor is extraordinary. The information from that patch, by the way, will be forwarded to the ring and then forwarded to an app or to the cloud where the dashboard is of the information.
Yeah. You should talk a little bit about that. And I should say, I've gotten the chance to experience the rings. I know a little something about it as part of my research on it. But do talk about the app as well, because I found that part of it to be very user-friendly and a huge reason it's so successful.
Right. I'm a very big believer in education. And the app actually is a great educational tool because we show you a great deal of metrics and charts on the app, real time of yourself. And additionally, we've expanded the knowledge for, the people that buy the ring not only want to see the numbers, but they also want to understand what it's all about.
Right.
And so we have a library of information inside the app where people can really read and understand about what these measurements mean. Okay. And I also think that, as I said to you, we're working in the kidney dialysis area. We're going to be working in all areas of medicine because these metrics have to provide value for doctors in any area that they are watching. And it's the future.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting for me. I've been very blessed with good health. And there's that initial thought, well, I don't need this. I'm in good shape and don't need to worry about it. But really then it's the forward-looking advantage. It's that vision of, before you even feel bad, you can know that there are things not working right.
Exactly. And it also becomes a terrific alarm system, again, because, i.e., what happened in COVID and how many people were misdiagnosed, those people, if they had some sort of oximeter that was correct, would be with us today. You know, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm very involved in this in the Black community. Okay. And we have several people reaching out, as I said to you before.
Right.
And one of the gentlemen that I know belongs to a African-American fraternity, and there are 3 or 4 major fraternities, and they are very, very strong within that community. And he actually went to what they call the Omega Conclave, and he was showing people the Circle Plus ring. And before he said it to me, I said, I bet you got a lot of people around you after you started showing them. He says, yeah, there were about 15 different people that were around me as I was showing my friend. And what he said was, which was the most disturbing thing, was that everybody had a story about their father, their mother, their auntie, their uncle, their grandfather, their grandmother, who they lost. They lost because they were misdiagnosed.
Wow.
And that really hit home to me and really disturbed me.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully now with this new hearing that has come about, we'll get this situation under control quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure nothing like that ever happens again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, it's a great thing that we're doing, and I'm excited to be doing this.
Are there other things that BodiMetrics is working on, or is this the sole focus of the company?
Well, what we're working on is not only that new patch that I was talking to you about, but probably the single most exciting thing we're working on is that we are going to be able to take glucose readings from the ring.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay. And
another
we believe,
one.
Oh boy, that's a real big one, and without puncturing your skin.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we also have, what we really didn't discuss was the ease of wearing a ring and how big and I will tell you that the institutions we work with talk about the compliance factor versus wearing something on the wrist, and it's exponentially greater.
Yeah.
So that if we can deliver glucose readings through the ring, it's really going to help a lot of people.
That's an interesting point. I'll give the personal testimonial. I wear no watch. I wear only one ring, the one my wife gave me lots of years ago. But in wearing the Circle Plus, I mean, it was completely unobtrusive. It was no problem whatsoever.
Right. And so it's the future. And what we'll also do is we will expand our dashboard, if I could say that to you, and work with other dashboards throughout the country so that this information can be pushed in. So not only are we working on the hardware side, we're also working on the software side.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to me, it's especially interesting because you hear so many horror stories in the healthcare field these days. And, you know, it's just refreshing to have a subject where things are not only better today, but they're going to get better and better as we go forward.
Correct.
The work you guys are doing.
Yeah, technology is incredible what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's a great time to be in this particular area.
Yeah. Is there anything we haven't hit on that we ought to know about BodiMetrics or the ring?
Not really, but we've really spoke, given you a good overview of it. We are working internationally, just to let you know. We're actually the country of Portugal has actually developed its first dashboard.
Oh, wow.
And the Circle ring will be the key first device to go in, which will be distributed to the public in Portugal.
Wow.
So that's very, very exciting. And we're developing a large distribution network both throughout Europe and Asia. And we're very excited about that opportunity.
And the whole manufacturing side, that's going smoothly?
That's going smoothly, but I will tell you that we're going to be moving to other areas of manufacturing. Okay.
Say more.
I will. The reality is that our relationships in China are not as good as it used to be, and we have to really think of that,
Yeah.
right? It's an
Yeah.
unfortunate situation.
Yeah, and
So
obviously you're not alone, so I don't think anyone's gonna be too surprised to hear that.
right, and as other corporations are developing other outposts for manufacturing, we're doing the same.
Yep.
We're going to be moving out of China and moving into other countries, to be frank, if we
Okay.
can manufacture, so that we don't face potentially the political problems that are evolving.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, wonderful work, Neil. Really great to reconnect and hear the latest. I will, when we get this live, I'll include a link to the Forbes story as well, so folks can read about it in addition to hearing what we had to say here. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Jim. Great to see you again, and I wish everybody good health.
Same to you. Thank you. And thanks for everyone for tuning in, and look for our future episodes. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vanoski. Watch for new episodes dropping on the first and third Tuesdays of every month.